I'm going to be hitting the level 604 target with my partially upgraded Photon ECM fleet. It's not one that I necessarily recommend, and let's get into it. So this target does pay out a fair number of points and is part of the top bonus set, which requires the 150, the 152, the 512, and the 604. So you have to hit a lot of things. I think most people are probably better off just sticking to the 150 and the 152. But if you want to know how to do it, this is my method. You basically have to treat every single submerged platform like it is a corrosive turret and it's going to fire on you. This means you have to stay moving at maximum speed at a fairly high range away. If it ends up being a missile turret, great, you're just going to take some missile damage. But if a corrosive turret happens to surface within your range, then it's going to hurt. Then with the ghost crawlers and ships, you just have to kite those, stay at max range, and you shouldn't take any damage from those if you just stay pretty far away. The guaranteed damage from this target is not moving within range of a corrosive turret, or from the missile death side turrets. And then there's just a bunch of ships you need to kill. This is a fairly long target, but I'm just going to be going through it. There are still ghost crawlers that do this whole shrouding thing going underwater. You can never see them all the way, and I am not a big fan of this particular type of scourge targets and fighting subs that do weird things like deep dive and shroud. It just doesn't work out too well. If you wanted to wait 5 minutes after the target starts until the 10-minute mark, all the buildings here would surface, but the ships would still not, and they would still be underwater. If you want additional things, you can also use this stun building right here, the obelisk, as we say, to stun all the ships around here, maybe some buildings too. The ghost crawler does have a lot higher stun resistance, just be aware or be mindful of that. Now, I do not have a fully upgraded fleet. I'm using Photon ECMs. The flagship is up to X1, which helps out. A few others are at U3, U2, X1. Overall, it is a pretty highly upgraded fleet, but if you don't have an upgraded fleet, it's probably way better to just stick to your Ronin fleet on the 150, 152. It might be worth hitting this target 1 or 2 times just to see what it is, practice for when it comes back in a TLC of some sort in a few months from now with the next assault hull. But you can see I've been in here like 3 minutes, and most of the target is actually still alive. The damage taken is probably going to be around 1 hour, but again, you'll see that at the very end. And it will, of course, also show my build. Again, the strategy for these turret platforms is just to stay moving so that if a photon, if a corrosive turret does surface there, you don't take damage because you're moving. It's a splash weapon, dumbfire, it will miss. Kind of like that one right there did, except you'd hope to be at even a little bit longer range. You can see I really haven't taken too much damage on my fleet. A little tiny bit, maybe some corrosive from that one I just messed up on a little bit, or the ghost crawler, but there is guaranteed missile damage from the ships that are shooting at me right now, the stonefish, as well as the death side turrets, which you'll see me engaging here shortly, especially on these center platforms. And again, these water turrets, there's some in every single interval. If the target has not ended, make sure you go around all of those, although everything should surface after 5 minutes. Again, see if I was moving when that corrosive turret surfaced, it should do no damage. Trying to prioritize the things that are actually doing damage, I have yet to see these small ships in the last 3 or 4 months actually shoot anything at me whatsoever. And again, for the ghost crawler, just stay at max range and try and kite it, stay moving. It's a little bit difficult here if you do run into some land tiles, which can be challenging, but you should be able to kill them in one salvo or one surface cycle of the ghost crawler if you're shooting at it constantly as a tip here. And again, you can see a few things on my Photons. It has the built-in UAV that debuffs accuracy, which is pretty good to use against the missile turret, death side turrets. And then you have the lightning strikes that you're seeing right here, these blue things, which help reduce damage. The corrosive turrets can be outranged if they surface before you get there, so I'm going to stay around here and shoot at these ones before moving off and picking off a few more things. Notice I'm okay with triggering 1, maybe even 2 groups of ships at the same time, because there's not a lot of threat, not a lot of threat of getting overwhelmed, because this blue ring here, this stun ring, does mean that I have a really good advantage. Also, notice that the ghost crawler was stunned there, and I'm shooting at ships there with the obelisk building. I'm able to kill some things, which does help reduce things if you can plan your path to go near a stun turret. And again, for these missile death size, it is probably better to have them surface, which will start to happen in 10 seconds. Things will start surfacing on the left side, moving to the right. It will be a good thing for that to happen because you can debuff the accuracy, which increases your chances of having something miss your fleet. Alright, we are at 5 minutes in, so things should start surfacing any second now. Again, I'm just going to kite around these ships here, try to actually shoot at the things that are doing damage to me. And they go down pretty quickly. You do a lot of damage with this fleet compared to their health. 1 or 2 salvos should knock pretty much everything out. Again, here are these turrets that start to surface. I'm going to target the missile turret here so I can start to debuff it with my special UAVs. You can see those orange things hitting them, and that will decrease his accuracy. There's a debuff arrow on that right now, so that means they're doing less damage to me, which is great. That's the idea here. Reduce the mandatory damage you're taking, because all targets in today's game do mandatory damage of some sort. If I can debuff that first, it's fantastic. And anti-missiles are somewhat effective. I think I have 2 across my entire fleet because you only fire at incoming things 1 time. No reason to have any more than that. At this point, the target is about 2/3 dead. I'm just going to finish off on the left side going through this. I would be actually curious to see what a pinch does or a daisy cutter does, so I'm actually going to launch a daisy cutter at this ghost crawler just to see what happens. It's supposed to do 20 million damage of some sort, and it does about nothing. Those new rockets we got are probably better geared for the PvP aspect. These things probably have extremely high explosive resist as they are an assault target. Just killing a few more things here, going around the circle. If ships are following me, great. If they're not, it doesn't matter to me. You don't really get overwhelmed as long as you don't charge directly into the center without killing literally anything else. And then when you do activate a group of ships, just move away from those. If you look at damage taken across my fleet at this point, ship 1 has a little bit, and that's most of it actually. Most of the damage is across ship 1. Maybe ship 5 has a little bit more too. But I don't really like how you have more damage on the flagship. It's not something I enjoy about these targets. I wish they had that king killer mechanic where all the turrets hit the ship with the highest health, which would spread around your damage more evenly. I'm actually expecting at this point damage to be closer to half an hour than an hour, but we'll see what it is once I finish up these final turrets. And again, before I engage these ones right here, I'm going to make sure I stop and let the UAVs hit them to debuff their accuracy 1 or 2 times. Then I can go in for the kill. And killing these yellow buildings, by the way, will make the turrets do less damage as a map-wide thing, so it's a good idea to kill those before you kill everything else if you really care about minimizing your damage. What you're probably noticing is that this target is taking a really long time, and it's really not worth it to me to hit this one target and spend 10 minutes in it when I could just hit a 150 and 152 total. Those 2 targets would take me 10 minutes total. It's not worth spending 10 minutes on a single target when I can do other ones with the better fleet that actually pay out better points in less time. Just something to think about, your return on time invested in the game. Obviously, if your Ronins are repairing, it could very well be worth your while to hit this target, but for most people, I really don't think this is one you need to do. There's the target. Let's go ahead and check the damage, battle report, and build. Damage taken is about an even mix of corrosive and penetrative. If I drove better, I could likely avoid most, if not all, of this corrosive damage. Repair time is 15 minutes, which is definitely way lower than I expected, and if you saw the thumbnail of this video, you'll probably see that. It looks like most of the damage is on the flagship. These back for instant repair, and the flagship is probably 7 or 8 minutes of damage. And by the way, here is the build. You will notice my 5th ship is the only one with anti-missiles. Everything else is fairly standard with a Hyper 30 across all 5 ships here. In terms of payout, you can see you get 250k for this target, but it is also part of the set bonus for these 4 targets I mentioned earlier. Really not worth hitting to me. Maybe I'll do it till the fleet dies, but most of my repair time will actually be spent on doing these lower 2 targets. I stack up 150s on auto, and then I usually hit the 152s with my Ronin fleet. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you want to try this target a few times, I recommend it, but I don't recommend it being the primary source for points in the raid. Let me know if this video was helpful. Again, I make these videos for you. And as always, this is Derpy signing out, helping you be a better pirate.